Greetings everyone, and welcome to Europa Universalis V, the magnus opus of complex strategy games, and definitely the most complex strategy game coming out this year. In this game, you'll lead a nation through hundreds of years of history, wage war, conduct diplomacy, build trade networks, and settle in the new world. Historical events and situations await your decisions, from the 100 Years' Wars to the collapse of the old dynasties. Manage your nation's factions, the religion of your population, and build a powerful economic foundation that will pay for your risky endeavors. This is a sponsored video by Paradox Interactive, and I'd like to show you hands-on gameplay of the early game. Europa Universalis V comes out on November 4th, so don't forget to check out the link in the video description to learn more about it. Alrighty, and here we are now in the game, and yeah, well, as always, the first important choice you need to make in this game full of choices is of course a country, a right country that is. You can really play any country in the world, right? There's not that many limitations. Here in the New World, for example, that needs to be discovered mostly, but even then you can already choose one of those native tribes that we have over there with their own problems most likely. Yeah, I can totally see one of those tribes here taking over the North Americas. But of course, as my first game, I would like to go into the heart of Europe. More specifically, I'm going to go all the way up here to Holland, because Holland has a very interesting destiny, right? As it is becoming one of the great discoverers, explorers, and also a capitalist superpower in the medieval times. And in this case here, Holland it is. We have a bunch of options to play as Holland, but we're going to look at that very soon. We can also see that they're Catholic primarily, right? And we do have, if we hover over that, a primary population of, or a total population of 212,000, together with a tax income right now of almost 15. And as you can see, for example, in comparison to England, which has a population of 3.3 million, we are a dwarf, because we're not even the Dutch yet, right? We're just a small territory somewhere here. Let's go ahead and play Holland as my first country. And yes, as always, also in this game, in Paradox games, you're getting really flabbergasted, you're getting stuffed with information, with choices that you can make. And really cool thing about this one here is I've tried a couple of countries now, and this one, every country has a different story, right? Of course, a different focus that you can go for, and every country has its own problems that you need to deal with as well. So this is just really deep. Now in the center here we got the agenda. That is our, well, our red carpet, you might say. The nations of the Low Countries have been bounded and bossed by both Kingdom of France or the Holy Roman Empire since their creation, often becoming a fief of one or the other and not rarely switching sides. Starting from a poor and swampy land, County of Holland has been slowly rising as a contender for supremacy in the region. The arrival of the Yuán Dynasty has brought us close to the County of Hainaut, and the expansion of routes of our country point to the Republic of Frisia, but the conflicts between our Adel, so that's the nobility, and our burghers seem to be reigniting. So the bourgeoisie, it's not that yet, of course, but it's an early form of that. Now, we also get a starting advice of how we probably could advance with this nation here, and the game also tells me that this is a very good nation if you want to focus on economy. So this is also something that Europa Universalis V really emphasizes. You can really play the play style that you want. Do you want to go for military, right? You can choose on a militaristic nation, or also play style. Do you want to focus on economy? You can do this. You can even focus entirely on diplomacy and take over the world like this. I love this. The game is very complex, but you don't need to have all the mechanics at hand right away. You can really just focus on one thing at a time. And the game actually gives you a bunch of tools that we're also going to explore in this video. Now, in this case here, we have the highly urbanized locations of the Low Countries of Holland. These are a prime candidate to become marketplaces, the commercial powerhouses of Northern Europe. That's exactly what we want to do. So a powerhouse. All right, let's close this one and have a look at Holland itself, because it's really just tiny, which is also great because it's not that complicated. We have Den Haag down here. That's my capital. We do have Amsterdam. We do have Dordrecht, as it's called, and also Middelburg over there. As we can see, Den Haag is my capital. It has a golden star. Utrecht is already another country, right? So it's not a capital of ours just because it has a star. It's actually another one. We have some overlays down here where you can highlight what's around this, and we can see here in orange, that's us, right? This is already another country. And Utrecht actually is a very tiny country, the bishopric of Utrecht, right? So this might be a great takeover candidate at some point. Middelburg is also county of Zeeland. That would also be a nice takeover here. But for us, we have Amsterdam, Dordrecht, and Den Haag here right in the center. Let's disable that again and have a look at the map, because the map is actually rather detailed. We see here lots of buildings, lots of smaller villages. So this is actually there because this is a peasant country, right? And here we do have these really cool bushes. That's because Den Haag is focusing on dye, right? And dye production. And we can see this on the map then as well, right here. We can also see that Amsterdam has a port already, the Wharf of Amsterdam, that allows us for some trading. And there's some livestock here. That means Amsterdam is producing livestock. So just by looking at the map and its details, you can also get already a lot of information out of that. Like here we do have some clay that we could also use then for our expansion in Rotterdam, that is. Though Rotterdam, as we can see, it's not even a village, right? It's just some peasants here digging in the soil. And it is also with one of those cities, Den Haag, that we can start now our first actions. So we can see here right away that the city consists of several population types. We got, for example, up here the nobility. Then we have the clergy. We have also the burghers, already a nice population of burghers. We got the laborers, and then also soldiers and peasants, right, all the way down here. And we can also see what type of buildings are already built in this city for these types of populations, right? We can see that for the nobility, there's not a single building here. For the clergy, they have at least a temple that is providing them with some bonuses and also a bit of market access. We can also see the burghers here. These are the primary forces of Den Haag. They have a lot of buildings available, and also their pool is really big with 1,900 in employment already, and also almost 700 ready to work for us. This is also a very important indicator, because it's useless to build houses or production chains when there's no workforce available. And for the burghers, we have a lot of workforce available here. The same goes with Amsterdam. We have a lot of burger production already available, right? And also workforce. So it's a perfect foundation to create something out of these. So craftsmen are one of them that we should really push. Now we go back to the agenda because we also look at the starting advice again, and really you should do this for every country. And the game also tells you what we are strong with right away. So that is the textile industry. We're in a perfect location to produce more fine cloth thanks to our workforce. And with that means the Spinners Guild and the Tailors Guild buildings would be great. We could import wool from the London market and make the fine cloth that we can then sell on the market again, right? So this would be a nice profitable industry early on. Also, we should increase our crown power. It's not especially high right now. And we should also mind our food supply limit that we have, as we are not very good with producing food ourselves. So let's quickly hover over here to Amsterdam and start our very first construction with the burghers now. We can click on them and we can now see all the buildings that would be available for them. We can see that we already have a Spinners Guild here with a very nice income, right? And of course it makes sense to push this further. The Spinners Guild is using wool on the market. It's getting it right now from the Brugge market that we are part of, or we have access to. And it's then producing cloth out of that we can sell again, right? We can also set a production method and just, for example, say take less wool to produce less cloth. Okay, that would be just useless. We could also say use not wool but use hemp fiber crops from the market, which are though a bit more expensive than wool. So this will also lead to a less profitable industry here. So this doesn't make that much sense. Now, the Tailor Guild is the other production building here that is very useful for us. So as we can see, we can use then also wool again from the tailor market, making fine cloth out of that and sell that. We can further enhance the fine cloth with dye, and those dyes we actually produce ourselves to get a bit of an additional income out of that. I like the idea of this one here. So I'm going to push the tailor shop right away by one level. This cost me 44 ducats that we have, right, to upgrade this one here. It will then increase the employment rating of this. It will also fortify my position in the tailor area, and it will also increase the strength, the political strength of the burghers, because we are pushing more buildings into them and thus increase their employment and their population. Now that was all about building something with money. And as we can see, money is not looking particularly good right now. 28 ducat we have left, and we have actually a negative balance there right now of 4. So how can we increase this? Well, I'm going into my economy there real quick, and we can do a bunch of things here. First of all, you can automate most of the things that are available here, right? If I click on this, it's getting automated, and the game will then try to adjust those taxes to get them close to 50% satisfaction here, right? So we can see that we could even lower the increase the taxes of the Adel, or the nobility there a bit. I could also, I cannot actually do this. For the clergy, I cannot increase the tax. I think we cannot tax them in total. There we have the Burin tax, so we can increase this a bit. This will lower their satisfaction, of course, right? But it leads to a bit more income here. Next, I could also have a look at minting over there, and we can start to mint more money directly. The problem is this will increase inflation. So this one has now a negative impact. So now we would increase our inflation each month by 0.01. Sounds like nothing, but it's a lot actually. So I'm not gonna do this. We're gonna keep the prices as steady as possible here. So this is the maximum I can mint at the moment. On the other hand, we have our expenses. One of them is, for example, my fort maintenance. That's really high right now. And I think I'm going to lower this one for the time being a bit. Not that much, but still a bit. Also, when I look at my legitimacy, we're having a positive legitimacy right now. So I could also lower my expenses there to get it still positive, right? While still also optimizing my expenses in this area a bit. Actually, you know what we're doing at this point? I'm going to pause the game right away, and we're starting with playing on the second speed because, you know, there's nothing going to happen for a long time anyway, right? So we're playing now here in the beginning, 1337. It's April, right? And only a month really counts. So we're now pushing through April. Let the game run. Let the simulation get started globally. Everything's working now, right? We are still alive. Good thing. But of course, we have a lot of work. We have to put in some research. So we are in the age of traditions right now. The game is divided into certain ages, as we can see. And in this case here, we are now kind of like in tradition. That's the strength is feudalism here. Also, the legalism system is Rome, so the Roman law, right? And we can see that each era has its own strengths. Then Age of Discovery, we go full steam to the New World, right? Printing press is a new discovery, for example, and so forth. There's always a new invention and a new theme that follows you. Right now, tradition, very simple. It ends in, yeah, actually in 5 years already, and we would then push to the next. Let's have a look at tradition real quick. Because here we have one advance that we can do, the organized religion. So it increases the possible clerics in each town by 50 and increases the literacy rating of my clergy by 5%. But that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because this unlocks me more advances here that we can now use. And here we actually have something very important for us, and that's the guilds. And I would like to go ahead with the guilds right away. Possible burghers in towns is increased by 100, and also the literacy rating for the burghers is increased by another 5%. Thus, they're also a bit more efficient at what they're doing. So let's also queue this one in right away, and with that we can leave research as is. Next, very important, diplomacy. I would like to improve my relationships with the great powers, especially France. We're very close to them. They're an expanding power, and at some point they would declare war on us. So I'm going to right click on France, and we're going to say here open diplomatic actions and start a friendly action. And in this case here, improve my opinion with them, right? This will cost me 0.05 diplomats per month, and it will improve the opinion by 100 and reduce their antagonism towards us by 100. That's very important. So I'm going to activate this one right away. And what we can see, yeah, up here we have our diplomats. We're now spending this one here. And we have ordered our diplomat to establish an embassy in France with the goal of improving our relations. There it is. And there we have it now. 0.05 is now a negative balance here. We still have 25 left, 0.25. So I would also like to go ahead and go with Flanders over there, and I would like to improve my relationship with them as well. It's very important because Flanders is actually pretty big, right, by comparison to us, and they want to expand as well. They have France to the south, so that means they can only go to the north and the east, and at some point they would come to us. So I would also like to improve my relationship with them and spend me some more of my diplomatic power there as well. The same goes with England. They would be a great ally, so I'm going to do this as well right away. By the way, we don't need to do this so many clicks. We can also just have the immediate action here as well available. Phew, that was a bit of diplomacy. As we can see, my balance has recovered somehow. Diplomatic income is increasing. And also my taxes are increasing right now for the burghers especially. So there's more coming in. As they're getting a bit more powerful, they're also paying us a bit more taxes. Depends on how, how profitable their businesses are. Speaking about profits, we can see this up here. We have unprofitable businesses indeed. Like the Spinners Guild here is, well, it's actually making us something. But there's a lack of wool right now. So it's not working really. Not entirely great. In Den Haag, Amsterdam, Dordrecht, this is, they feel this right now. Okay, but the problem has already been resolved again, so the spinner skill is working. This really just depends on the fluctuation of goods that we have on the Brugge market, so it might be very good to expand to other markets as well, to have more options available here. However, still, what we have is the Spinners Guild here in Dordrecht and in Den Haag. They're not earning us anything, and the pottery here as well. Production method, we already have the only one that's available to us right now. Clay is something we produce ourselves, however. So it shouldn't be the big issue that we have here. So let's check this out real quick. There it is in Rotterdam. We have a clay production running. And this is called an RGO, right, in this game. So that's very abstract. It stands for Raw Good Operations. And that basically means anything that we have available on the market that we have more or less in the ground or in the soil. So we have an overlay here. That's the raw materials overlay. And we can see that, for example, here we produce dyes. That's an RGO. We have the clay in Rotterdam, right? We would have salt in Dordrecht, fish over here in Leiden, and horses in Gerd-Rüdenberg over there, right? And livestock in Amsterdam. So these are my RGOs, and we can always just expand them here, right? By building more if we need that. So the dyes, for example, in Den Haag, we are also then processing into the fine cloth, right? So this might be a very good thing because we don't need to buy the dye then from the market. We can produce it ourselves and then process that into fine cloth. This should be very profitable then for that business here. And right now what we can see is if we change the production method here from wool to silk, we can actually increase its profit. So I'm going to do this right away. And we're going to enhance this one here with the dye. We can also enhance it in addition with alum, which is a very cheap thing that is available on the market right now to further boost the outcome of this. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to monitor this one though. All right, next I want to go into my government and into my cabinet because we don't have one yet. I can choose 2 cabinet seats and we should do this right away. And yeah, we can choose now where we want to focus the cabinet on. For example, in increasing the provincial control. And this is something that is very important to me. So we have the Amsterdam and South Holland. And we can see in Amsterdam, my control rating is only at 42. Very bad. I want to increase this one because the more control we have, the more royal authority we have, and also the more tax income we can generate out of this one. So let's start increasing the control of Amsterdam now. And this will slowly increase the control. This can be useful when circumstances have changed and we quickly wish to increase our control. Yeah, whatever. Also, we can go ahead and appoint a cabinet minister, and we have 4 available right now, and each one of them is strong in a certain aspect. This one actually is very good in warfare, for example, so he's very good when it comes to military cabinet actions. He's also not that bad with administrative stuff. So Roland here is very good with administration and military stuff, so I'm going to assign him to that. And this will directly also boost now the efficiency of increasing the control rating by 66%, whereas he is actually 23% on that, right? That he adds in power to this. And with that, we increase now control by 1.66 every month, which is actually quite a bit for Amsterdam. As you can see, also we hover over here, we can see that there's a construction ongoing right now. That's our tailor. The Tailors Guild takes another 160 days. We have another one. Let's just go for the actions first. And we do have so many things here available, right? Stabilize the country, gives me more stabilization. We could strengthen government, gives me more legitimacy. Pop installation. Here we could have more migration. Pop migration speed. Or we could also increase the monthly development rating of the province, and I would like to do this. And we're gonna go ahead and take this one for South Holland, then down here. And I'm also gonna appoint someone to that. Let's just check it out. Ooh, very good with diplomatic actions. This one here would be. For administrative purposes, they're all rather weak, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and get this guy here. That's boosting it by 47% now, whereas here is only 4.5. So that's not very good, actually. But it's still only Southern Holland. Why am I going with Southern Holland? Because we do have a maximum control here, right? Because it's our capital. And where the capital is, you get maximum control. Whereas Amsterdam is a bit further away from the capital, and we already have some reduced control over this land here. Here we can now see them, so they're working, and we're just probably gonna keep them like that. Also, we do not have a commander in the army right now. Who should we take? This guy here is probably the strongest one. He's very good, actually. Why is he not my commander? Let's go ahead and take him. The 100 Years' War. In the year 1337, tension between England and France have reached a breaking point. The long-standing disputes over territory and claims to the French throne have erupted into open hostilities, marking the beginning of the 100 Years' War. Both nations are now preparing for protracted conflict that will shape the destiny of Western Europe. The world watches as these two great powers prepare for their clash. This will hopefully be over quick. That's the option. Nice. Good thing that we're improving the relationship with both of them. Let's just hope that, yeah, something nice is coming out of it. So this is a situation now that is unfolding. And we can also see then here the end requirements. We can see the strength of both nations, so they're pretty much equal, right? And we can also see who is in an alliance with them on both sides. And we can see that Flanders here is the closest one that is part of the conflict. So we still have South Holland here, Middelburg, as a buffer between us and France, right? They don't belong to us. So right now we can watch, I guess. Now I've been talking about the market access, and while we are at situations and diplomatics, let's go ahead and go into the economic actions that we have. And here we have the request market access preference. So we can now choose another bigger nation here, where we could get some market access out of that to use for importing and exporting our goods back and forth. And I think the Kingdom of England is pretty good for that, because they are a very great market for wool and also a great purchaser of or buyer of fine cloth then as well. So we can go ahead and set the Kingdom of England, ask for our locations to get a preference in the England's market. And we get 20% market attraction. England lifts the market protection between the countries, and we gain 30 opinion of England. And it was accepted, and England has given the Hollandish locations better access to their markets. That's very good for us, and this immediately boosted my income by 3 almost, thanks to the trade income boost that we get out of that, selling, for example, fine cloth. I'm afraid we are running out of diplomatic actions then, but that was already quite nice for us. Next, let's go into my government. It doesn't end, because here we now have the cabinet working very good. And here we have our estates. Now, the estates in the government tree are the different populations that we have in our country. So we have them also up here, and we can see their opinion of us and their influence. And in this case here, we can also see that satisfaction levels is almost equal for all of them, right? So that's us, the crown. We got the nobility, then we got the clerks, we got the bourgeoisie again, and the peasants. And I want to fortify the burghers, right? So we can give them now a privilege, something that makes them a bit more powerful. And I would like to continue with my trade capacity stuff, increasing my tax income out of trade. And for this, we need to increase the market attractions, and allow trade center sponsorship is a very good thing for that. And this gives me a plus 5% satisfaction. They also gain 33% power, though I'm not entirely sure of what that number consists, right? So yeah, power, estate power. They get 33% additional estate power. And there it is, right? And their total power right now sits at 23%, right, overall. And the more powerful they are, the more likely it is also for them to accept laws that profit them and laws that profit us. Another thing I would like to do here is a reform. We can still do one more. And this is for the government itself. And we can choose something here that we can immediately take into action. For example, we go into agricultural cultivation and boost our food production by 20%. It, however, progresses the serfdom modifier. Now that I think about it, I don't like any of these here. Diplomatic traditions, the diplomatic relationship goes up. I think I'm gonna take this one here the most. Down here we have the autocracy that gives me more crown power. Also doesn't sound that bad, right? I think that I'm gonna go with the diplomatic actions right now, and this will now run. We've reformed our monarchy, making diplomatic traditions a part of what defines us. By the way, yes, here we have our ruler, Guillaume III. This guy here is the ruler. By the way, we're not directly ruling him, right? We're ruling as the entity of Holland, more or less. He's just one figure of many. So it's not like in Crusader Kings 3 where we're really playing as him. You know, once he dies, someone else takes over. And that's him right now. And we can also then see his relationship with the estates, for example. And we can also see his children, and then we can see then also his heir that is then taking over. Nobility are not exactly happy right now. It might be also great to give them a privilege, something that works in their favor, something small perhaps, ones with the 2%. So for example, patronage of the arts, monthly progress to innovation, and the artist salary reduces by 10%. This sounds actually really nice, doesn't give me a big penalty or anything like that, and should make the nobility a bit happier again. Now, I was talking about automation in the beginning of this video, and the game really lets you automate basically any aspect, right? So we can see this here. I could even automate the buildings, so what is being constructed next. So theoretically, if you automate everything, you could just watch the game unfold in front of you and have some fun watching it with popcorn, I guess. But of course, that's not how games work. To be fun, I rather want to automate stuff that I'm not really interested in right now. Like for example, the army construction is something. I don't care how my army constitutes right now. We are focusing on other things at the moment. The same goes with my navy. I can always just disable this again to take over, right? There's no need for this. Also replace the generals and the admirals. I don't really care for now, so I'm gonna just disable this one here. However, I would have like total control over my diplomacy and over my economy. Sale of titles. One of our advisors has suggested selling off titles to the nobility to anyone who can afford to pay. It could bring in lots of money. This would bring me in 55 ducats right away, but the nobility lose 15% satisfaction. Ooh, that is a lot. And some things cannot be bought. I would love that money because, let's face it, it's a lot of money, but I'm not gonna go into a war with my own nobility, so we're gonna decline this one. I have a very good income. You look at how my trade income explodes at the moment to 4 now. And my bourgeoisie, my burghers, they're very profitable as well at this point. We're still mining, by the way. How's that working out? Yeah, it still stays equal. We can also see the trade income here now. The fine cloth being sold to the London market gives me a lot of income here per month. Very good. And it continues to climb. And we can also see that Sealam is a fiefdom and they have to pay us ducats. Protection money. It might also be worth it to look at food. Right now we have a very good stockpile, 445 food surplus in the Brugger market, so we have no problem with that. But if it ever comes to that, well then we need to go into the food tab and check out where we have problems right now. So we can see that we have no stockpiles whatsoever. And I can also then look further in and see that, for example, my city, of course, consumes a lot of food. Some of my smaller counties, especially this one here that has the fisheries, is producing food. So we can push this one up if we are getting low on food, for example. Of course, we also want to expand a bit at some point. So I'm looking at Utrecht here especially, as it is our direct neighbor and is actually rather weak when it comes to it. It's only 32,000 people that live in here in total. There are 195,000 and their soldier or their army strength is quite manageable. So what we can do here is in Utrecht, we could now create, and this is just like in Crusader Kings 3, for example, create a casus belli, right? And it is this justification a country uses for starting a war. And depending on whatever we choose from here, we can then also, for example, say that, yeah, we have an anti-piracy war against them or a trade conflict that would give us legitimacy over a war. However, we need a spy network first. So this is the first step that we should go for. Build a spy network. This will increase by 1 each month and it will cost me 0.10 diplomats. And this we can use then to fabricate casus bellis. And in this case here, spy network. And I would also like to do the same thing for Middelburg over there. Can we yeah, we can create 2 spy networks at the same time. Great stuff for both of them. Just for some long-term expansion plans that I have. The Philosopher's Stone. Groups of alchemists have gathered before the court desiring funding to expand their research. Their proto-scientific language, wrapped in mysticism, speaks of great bounty, gold from base metals, a cure to any plague, an elixir of life. Of course, court experts advise against funding this group as they have no track record of useful alchemical discoveries. Funding the alchemists will probably lead to some kind of discovery, though it is hard to tell what that's gonna be. Whoa, that's a lot. 65. We could also go with the lesser one. Okay, search high and low, 300. Or fools, we just lose prestige. Oh, that's actually also really bad. Like 10 prestige is a lot, honestly, right? And that's the prestige of my country, right? And we're only at 17. Losing 10 of that right away, that would hurt me a lot. Okay, it needs to be one of these options here. And I'm gonna go with the lesser one or turn it into gold. You know what? The difference is not that big. I'm gonna go turn lead into gold and we'll just see what comes out of that. I wanted to use that money on a road building now. Road construction, but unfortunately, yeah, I have to spend it on alchemists. So far so good. I think we're off to a nice start of Europa Universalis here playing as Holland. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to check out the link in the video description to learn more about this game. It's available on Steam as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to leave a like behind and we may continue onwards then here in a series of this very, very complex game. Stay tuned.